Okay, so thank you so much, Maite, for being here with us today. You are currently managing partner at Nexxus Iberia, a private equity firm that helps small and medium-sized companies to invest internationally. You come with a degree in finance and political science in Boston College, also an MBA in Columbia, and some of the things that really caught me from the bio is that you have to say no sometimes, which I think is really, really important. You are also president in Level 20, a non-profit organization that promotes female diversity in private equity firms. And you are a board member in Prisa and Repsol, right?
Correct.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this great interview. Well, I think the results of diversity and inclusion are very well researched and documented, so it's not about being important to me. It's about empirical evidence that either companies that are quoted or private equity firms that have diverse teams perform better. And this is done and researched by McKinsey, by Credit Suisse, by Oliver Wyman, so it's not something that I'm making up or I feel it should be important. So, for example, McKinsey published a study that clearly reflects that top quartile companies in the world that have a significant percentage of women executive directors in their management teams tend to perform at least 21% more results than the bottom quartile companies. So I think that's empirical evidence, not in Spain, but worldwide, which I think it's what we should be looking at. So to me, it's important that if women represent 47% of the workforce in Europe, they also should have a similar percentage in upper management. Well, I think to be in private equity, number one, you need to know the industry. It's a very demanding industry, but it's not more demanding than other industries. What's really scary is that in Europe, there's only 6% of the partners in private equity and directors are female. That's only overcome by the mining sector, I think has a worse ratio. I think we have better ratios in oil and gas, frankly. So there's something about this industry that we're not managing to attract young women at the entry level. We are not able to retain middle management women in private equity, and then we don't get enough women promoted to the partnership level. So you mentioned Level 20. Level 20 is a non-profit organization that was headquartered and founded in London in 2015, sponsored by the GPs in the industry, so it's privately funded, exactly to do that, to try to understand why we don't have so many women in upper management in private equity. We also do a lot of research. We want to be at the forefront of thought leadership and research on the subject, because I think, again, we need to have empirical evidence of why these things are not working out. And the fourth angle we work very hard is on networking. Women tend to do less networking than men in every industry, but also in private equity. So what we're doing is doing a lot of networking events, big and small, very focused breakfasts to talk about key subjects for women and not women. I mean, just private equity, to understand what the different challenges are as you move along in your professional career. Thank you. I think international experience is very important nowadays because we do work in a global economy. If you think of the multinationals, in order to move up the ladder professionally, you probably need to move around the world and be country head in different countries before you get to the top, okay? So you have to be willing. Number one, you need to speak languages. Number two, you need to be willing to take your luggage and move somewhere else. And that sometimes there's a lot of reluctancy to do that because you've got to move up your family, your husband, etc. So that's a key factor you need to take into account if you're in a multinational professional environment. And that's very well established in the corporate ladder. So you either do that or don't go there. If you work in other sectors in the Spanish economy, for example, I think it's very valuable to have an international experience because our market is relatively small domestically. So in order to grow, Spanish companies have done excellent growing internationally. If you look at our listed companies, they have a dominant presence in Latin America, they have a dominant presence in some parts of Europe. So they need top executives to move around the world to manage those subsidiaries. So having that experience makes you more valuable within the corporate world than if you don't. Now, how do you get there? Well, fortunately, now we have an education system that allows you to take a year off and go and do Erasmus, etc. I think it's important to speak English, whether we like it or not. This is the international business language. So anybody can learn English nowadays. You don't need to go to Ireland like we used to do in Spanish students. You can do this online, basically. But that to me is a must. So for younger kids, and thank God in Spain, I think that English is becoming more well known as a second language. I think that's a key success factor to move up as you grow in your professional career. I think the main challenge is for a woman in general to go up the corporate ladder and become top executives are probably 4 or 5. And I'm not an expert, but I've lived through this many years. Number one is wanting it and focusing on it, because men want it and they're focused on getting there. So you need to really think what your competition looks like around, if you're competing with everybody, no? Number two, you gotta have a lot of flexibility in terms of the traveling, 24 hours, 7 days. You need to have a partner that supports that lifestyle. If your partner, whether it's a husband or your wife or your whatever, needs to understand the challenges of an upper management position, which again entails 24/7, lots of traveling, lots of phones at home. I've taken conference calls many times, thank God that they don't see me on a video, cooking something at home and they think I'm in the office. So you need to really have a lot of flexibility. Fortunately, technology has been a great enabler to be able to do that. You can work from anywhere. I think companies are a lot more flexible in terms of being in the office or not. So at around 30, when it becomes very complicated to manage a career and a family, nowadays, I think there's a lot more flexibility from corporates and private equity and companies and governments to allow women and men to take some time off or do part-time work or work from home in order to go through those very tough years when you are childbearing and moving up in that middle management, no? So it's important not to quit, and that's where women tend to struggle. Some of them quit when they have children, especially when you go into the second child, or they take a step back and they go part-time. And then it's very difficult to rehook into your professional career. Specifically in markets such as Spain, that's a less deep market than markets like the UK, where there's not a lot of part-time jobs. I think the critical elements to become successful are probably a combination of your own destiny, forging your own destiny, which is persistence, resilience, focus, wanting it, ambition, and probably there's a 30% of luck, being in the right time at the right place. And people always say, Rafa Nadal is very lucky. Yeah, he's very lucky, but he trains more than any other tennis player. So sometimes you can bring on a little bit of luck just by working harder. Managing relationships is definitely very important in any business. In private equity more specifically, it's part of our day-to-day job. I spend at least 30% of my time either identifying companies, which means getting in front of an entrepreneur by calling him, by finding somebody who knows him, identifying management teams, so you need to network with potential management teams, identifying advisors or board members that will help us do the deals and then stay on the boards. So in private equity, networking is probably 30% of your job as a job description. So you better like it. Because if you want to originate new investment opportunities, you need to be out there in the market all the time. In other industries, I think it's equally important because it's part of getting new businesses, getting new ideas, getting support for your business. So I encourage everybody to at least allocate a certain percentage of time to networking. I think what I fear the most is for things not to happen as I had planned. I'm a big planner and I'm a little bit of a control freak in my life. And I have planned my life by decades, my professional life. So, you know, I wanted from age 20 to 30, I had a plan from 30 to 40. The thing that's changed is after you turn 50, I don't plan things anymore. I just ride the wave. So my biggest fear right now is not about not achieving my plans. It's about health issues, to make sure I'm healthy, to make sure I'm energetic, to make sure I can lead a team. And because frankly, right now, I think I'm in my best moment in life. So my biggest fear is health. I think planning for your career path is quite critical at an early age, in the early stages. I think the decade of 20 to 30, every decision you make, then it translates into something later on in life. That's why I think it's so important to have a mentor when you're younger, because they have already seen how that unfolds. So having a plan of what do I want to be when I'm 30, whether it's I want to be married, I want to have a child, I want to be in this industry, I want to make a lot of money, I want to work for a nonprofit. It's very important to sit down and think about it. You might be able to change it if you want, but there's so many decisions you need to take from 20 to 30 to get to that first decade that you better plan it. Whether it's I need to do an MBA, or I need to spend a year abroad in a nonprofit, or I want to have a child. So I think it helps to focus because lack of focus translates into chaos and changing jobs. I see a lot of curriculums with like 10 jobs on the front page. To me, it looks like, boy, this person doesn't know where they want to go. Well, I think the key trends in talent is what everybody wants, which is somebody who can read, has the flexibility to read the challenges that are coming on, that has the capability of combining technological disruption with core businesses, and most of it that knows how to manage multi-diverse teams, whether it's age, diversity, or international presence. So sometimes you need to work with people who are sitting in the other part of the world. And that sometimes is quite challenging for some people. So that's the kind of, I think, key elements that we need to look for talent.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to have you here. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, and I hope that people enjoy this video. Thanks.